However, with Chelsea driving the spending, the result for 2023 is a step change. Million cash being spent by Premier League clubs, over 3 times the amount spent the year before.
What are we doing? Seriously, it's a joke.
With another Premier League season coming to a head on the pitch and the accounts closed for 2023, what does the financial state of the Premier League really look like? Let's delve into the financials of each team, covering 5 key categories: revenue, operating profit, wages per point, cash from operations and transfer fees, funding. So is the Premier League still one of the richest prizes in sport? Let's find out. Before we dive into this year's figures, let's recap what happened the previous season. Total revenue for all 20 teams reached nearly $5.5 billion. When broken down by team, Manchester City led with $613 million, while Burnley generated the least at $123 million, a staggering $490 million less than the title winners. To assess their progress, let's begin by plotting the teams on the chart. Then we'll remove the 3 relegated teams and add in Fulham, Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest, who were promoted from the Championship. So how does 2023 compare? City widened their lead at the top, becoming the first team to surpass the £700 million revenue mark. Manchester United overtook Liverpool to claim second place, and Newcastle also made significant progress, leading the teams outside the Big Six. In conclusion, City brought in $713 million, while Bournemouth replaced Burnley at the bottom with $141 million. The gap between the top and bottom teams widened to over $570 million. Combining these figures, Premier League revenue surpassed the £6 billion mark in 2023, an 11% increase from the previous year.
Satisfied, of course.
Next up, operating profit. Recall 2022, when despite generating $5.5 billion in revenue, the 20 teams collectively incurred a loss of over $400 million. By team, City once again topped the charts, bringing in $46 million. In contrast, Man United and Chelsea performed poorly, incurring significant losses. Once again, let's map these out and switch out relegated and promoted teams. To flag, Leicester reported a 13-month financial period, so we've prorated this to a year. And for Bournemouth, we have also excluded $71 million of exceptional income that arose from their takeover. Those adjustments aside, how did 2023 get on? Brighton stands out, delivering an astonishing $131 million profit.
I'm really proud for the players, first of all, for the fans, for the club, for our owner.
Despite winning the treble, Man City's profitability dropped into the red. Manchester United and Chelsea both improved their bottom line. However, Chelsea's improvement was partly due to the sale of 2 hotels within the Blueco ownership group. Everton had the worst profitability among the 20 teams, with over $80 million in operating losses. And staggeringly, only 3 out of the 20 teams reported a positive operating profit. Add these together and the Premier League portfolio losses dropped to almost $550 million, with operating margins falling to 9% losses.
It's embarrassing. That's how I feel.
Next up, wages per point. In 2022, Premier League club staff costs totaled $3.6 billion, accounting for 66% of revenues. But how do these costs translate onto points on the pitch? Brentford were best in class at $1.5 million staff costs per point. Conversely, Manchester United had the priciest returns, with each point costing $6.6 million. Again, map these out and swap out the teams. What did returns look like in 2023? Brentford remained at the top with their efficient spending, while Brighton held on to second place and narrowed the gap. Manchester United showed significant improvement, with their cost per point dropping to $4.4 million. But look at Chelsea. Their 44 points came at an eye-watering $9.2 million apiece. Adding up all these wage bills mean 2023 staff costs passed the $4 billion mark, but still accounted for 66% of revenue.
I've got to be honest with you, there's an awful lot of players at this club who earn far too much money
for what they are.
Next up, cash flows. As always, we look at the combination of cash from operations and transfer fees. In 2022, a net 273 million cash exited Premier League clubs. Liverpool brought in the most with 48 million, but it was a different story on the other side of Merseyside, Everton spending 95 million. We also need to flag that Man City's numbers are an estimate because they don't provide their own cash flow. So what happened in 2023? You may be asking why the scales are so bunched up for this one. Well, this is why. Chelsea spent a staggering 372 million in the year.
The start is a disaster for us.
Everton reined in their spending, while Newcastle and Aston Villa splashed more of the cash as they looked to break into the top six. Brighton again were top of the table, bringing in 43 million. However, with Chelsea driving the spending, the result for 2023 is a step change 850 million cash being spent by Premier League clubs, over 3 times the amount spent the year before.
What are we doing? Seriously, it's a joke.
Finally, cash funding. In the previous year, owners of Premier League clubs sourced 825 million of cash. Everton contributed 276 million in both loans and equity, whereas Liverpool paid down 40 million of bank loans. But what about 2023? Any guesses of which team has had to front up the most money? That's right, Chelsea's owners provided 426 million to cover their extraordinary outflows. The rest of the teams generally mirror the cash generated from operations and transfer fees, with Everton again funding over 200 million. Newcastle and Villa also stepping up their financing. Brighton's positive cash flows meant that owner Tony Bloom could take back 33 million of loans previously given. With 16 clubs receiving additional funds in the year, the result means owners sourced an additional 1.4 billion in cash in 2023.
They're going to be on that level sort of from the rest of the season onwards.
Yeah, if I spend a little bit more money, yeah.
So another year in the bag with greater revenues, but also greater wage bills, losses and cash outflows. Brighton definitely appeared to be the star performers off the pitch, with Chelsea definitely not delivering their returns for the staggering outflows made. But as the 2024 season comes to an end, who will be the best set up off of it? Only time will tell.